Hi, I'm here with Jennifer Bichler, who is with Northwest Elite Therapy LLC, and she's come down to the Scottsdale area from Washington State to work on a number of her client horses that have traveled down here, as well as new horses that she's picked up in the area. Jennifer does PEMF on horses, humans, and do you do dogs as well?
I do work on dogs.
Any other ones?
A couple cats I've had some experiences with, but that's it so far.
Oh, that's awesome. So Jennifer, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
I've been into horses for a very long time, about 24 years now, and they've always been a passion of mine. I got started with Northwest Elite Therapy about 7 years ago, October 2017. I started that venture just because I loved working with these guys and was very passionate about their care.
How long have you been involved with horses?
So when I was a little girl, probably about 5 years old, that was it for me. I sat on the fence. My mom was an FFA leader when I was a kid, and her friend had horses, and they would always find me over there. So that goes back to about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. And then we moved to Washington, and I was able to have an opportunity to ride horses. Started lessons in about 2000, and here we are.
And when did you start your business with PEMF?
I officially started that in October of 2017. I did a couple months of research on looking at different products and found somebody to do a demo for me because there really wasn't a lot of options up in the Washington State area. She was kind enough to come down, set up some horses, experienced it for myself, and probably about a month to 6 weeks later, I had my own machine.
All in.
Yes. Yeah. I tried it on myself.
Yeah.
And that was really what sold it for me.
Yeah.
And do you still use PEMF on yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I try to do it a couple times a week. I'm probably not as good about it as I should be with the technology sitting in my household. But I definitely try to make it a point at least a couple times a week. My family does it as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you have a limited selection of options since you had to fly in and can only just really take so much on the plane. So we have a couple of your loops here and your machine. Yours is the Pulse Equine EQX.
Correct. Yeah.
And what attachments do you have over here?
So over here, I have my small loops. I'm not, sure on the diameter off the top of my head. Maybe
6 to 8 inches?
Yeah, but I would say maybe 8 inches or so. These are great for legs, or even focusing on certain points of the body, like down the spine, the SI joint, through the neck. Really gives a much more targeted.
And these are butterfly, so there's 2 loops here, so you can put that around a leg and get it.
Yeah, and oftentimes I'll take a Velcro piece and get it around the leg, as long as the horse is safe with it. You never know when you first start out doing this. But yeah, take a little piece of Velcro and just right around the leg. Yeah. And it really surrounds everything pretty well. And it really works on a push-pull because of this adapter. You can really split that up and get an efficient
magnets pushing against each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a great option for smaller areas. The other set I have over here for equine, you could also use these for dogs. These are my large loops, designed exactly the same way as the smalls, just much bigger circumference. I want to say these are maybe 24, 28. I'd have to look back at the measurements on that one.
We just kind of get used to grabbing what we need.
Right.
So these are the loops that we use for people who haven't seen it. Jennifer and I took 2 machines from 2 completely different companies that are comparable in strength, and we compared them on a horse. And Jennifer used these loops because they were very similar to what I had. Mine are a little larger, and so it just, covered like a little bit more area on the horse. But it was a pretty interesting, you look back on my videos and you'll see that. So these, we usually refer to them as equine wings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. So the other set I have, which a friend of mine was kind enough to let me borrow. These are too heavy to stick in the check on bag. So these are the paddles. Now, these are mostly used on humans. You could use them on dogs, horses as well. just not as easy to maneuver. They're a lot heavier.
Yeah. And I've seen like a single smaller paddle to use on a hoof, like for abscesses and navicular.
And that comes with the other manufacturers, the other brands. Pulse currently doesn't offer a hoof box or anything like that. So typically when I work on hoofs, I'll use the small loops and get it around the hoof as best as I can with those.
Yeah. So how does this paddle different to these loops?
So these paddles here have a focus. There's a cross stitching here on this pad. The focus is going to be most intense on the inside where all of these stitching points meet.
So it's not a loop that's inside here like what we see. It's different.
Yeah. So this is a little bit more tightly coiled with a focus point more here and diminishes outwards.
Cool.
Whereas the loops that I just showed are a focus along the outside of that loop and diminish a little bit towards the middle.
Yeah.
It's kind of opposite.
Yeah.
The other great thing about these paddles, you can use them for so many different things. You can double these up to hit your shoulder or your hip flexors. You can also separate these. They have a very long Y here. You can separate them as well with this Velcro here at the top. Yeah. You could put it on one side of the shoulder, on the back, on the front, and really surround that particular area. Or if you really need a little bit more focus, say on the hip flexors, you just double these up and hit those areas, hips, knees even. Yeah. Great for all of those points.
And then at home, you have some more attachments. So you have a mat. Do you have a chair?
I do. I have the human chair, which is great for a full body session, just kind of relaxing, or if you want to get everything in there at once. And then I also have the square pad.
The square pad works similar to these paddles, focus in the middle, but it's much bigger in a rectangular shape. Yeah. And then I also have the cube. The cube is...
And that's a new product, isn't it?
It is. I believe it's been out, I want to say maybe a year and a half now. And it's one of my favorites. I love using it. You can use it anywhere on your body. It's a 12 by 12 cube that has the same intensity through the whole thing. So it's really great for really any point. You can put it on your feet, lower back, shoulders. I only use it on humans. I don't use it on the horses. It's just a little bulkier, and I like to keep that clean from, humans and horse stuff. I try to keep it separate. Most horse people don't usually care too much about it, but...
That's why I don't do people.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want a whole nother set
for
people.
Yeah.
Because not everyone wants the loops. Even though we clean them every time.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants those horse loops.
Yeah.
They know where they've been.
Yep, exactly.
So tell me, what has been like the most remarkable change that you've seen through using PEMF on horse, human, dog, kitty?
I've had a couple that come to mind. One retired off the truck thoroughbred mare. She had very little workload. She just was, semi-retired. She had a lot of injuries when she was younger. The owner actually acquired her probably 23 years ago because she had really bad cellulitis. And she has struggled with that for many years. She also had an injury with a T-post at some point, going through chest and coming out her shoulder. So all of these things were things to consider working on her. She was always very sensitive on the left shoulder, through her neck, and also one instance where on the old, the leg that had the cellulitis, she one day all of a sudden was starting to kind of leak some fluid, more or less, out of where her chestnut would be. And the owner discovered there was nothing wrong. There was not a puncture wound. She did find a pocket kind of underneath the chestnut. And of course we can only speculate, but thought maybe something way back when she had cellulitis, when they were really scrubbing it and trying to take care of that area, that something got stuck in there and kind of encapsulated. That oozed and was a little bloody. Vet came out, checked it, said she's okay, just keep an eye on her. It's since healed up and has never seeped any kind of fluid or anything, and the scar that she had from cellulitis right below that area has diminished in size. She also had a probably a dime-sized pocket, maybe where she had a puncture on her hindquarters. That hasn't completely gone away, but it's filled in. The scar isn't as prominent as it used to be. Also has helped her with her keeping and maintaining her top line.
Yeah.
Just an old horse. She doesn't do anything, but she just looks better overall, and she's holding her weight better. Not the owners reported not as many colicky issues as she worried about previous years prior to doing PEMF. Another one was a horse that I had scheduled to go see about 90 minutes away from my home at a horse show. No, I've known this horse for quite a long time. He was kind of lame at the horse show after his jumping rounds. Went and worked on him, and as I was working on, discovered like he wasn't putting a lot of weight on his. I believe it was his right hind. It was really stocked up. They suspected that's where the lameness was coming from. And as I was working on him, abscess blew on that foot while I was working on him. And that was pretty impressive. I have some pictures of that, to just document, because I was very surprised. And it was really cool because once I discovered that, I worked probably 45 minutes just on that whole leg and foot. And he was bearing 100% weight, like he was getting comfort out of that release that it was giving him. And then he went back on to show 2 days later and won a class.
Wow.
So, yeah, it worked out well.
Kind of a miracle story.
Both
Of them. Yeah. And really, I do think with the older horses, PMF is really one of the things that I personally would like to see with older horses, because it's such an easy way to just help them just be as healthy as they can be.
Yeah. I mean, it really helps maintain their body condition, from my experience. I've had a lot of older horses that maybe didn't have a good appetite. They're eating more, drinking more. So I think it's a really great maintenance thing for senior horses. They might not be working anymore, but they can still benefit.
Exactly.
Sure.
So a healthy working horse, what frequency would you like to see them getting PMF?
In a perfect world, I would say once a week.
Yeah.
Especially a horse that is in vigorous training. I feel the more often, the better. It's just going to help their performance. It's going to help them recover from exercise faster. But also that comes down to finances for a lot of people. It's just not affordable. So oftentimes I'll do once a month. It's a pretty typical maintenance. People see the benefits still. Every horse is different. So I have some people that'll say 4 weeks, he still feels great. 6 weeks down the road still feels great. And some people it's 2 weeks or a couple days, and it really depends on how regularly they've had it as well, leading up to that maintenance.
So are you finding that owners are seeing a decrease in vet bills or an increase in performance when they're having regular PMF on their horses?
Yeah, definitely. There's been, on the vet side of it, I can't say so much, but I know that I've had numerous clients that have had much more, I want to say much more success, but their horse's performance and ability to keep up with the task at hand has been much easier for them. And it helps just their comfort overall, and the performance.
I've actually had people whose horses have been regularly getting joint injections, and we started PMF with them, and the horses go from 6 months to 18 months. And then the vet is doing them because they're flexing a 1 instead of a 2 or 3.
Right.
So I've seen really big time spans spread out with
that's
joint
awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's an advantage to where you're using the PMF and you're an instructor and you're a little bit more hands-on with the, people, I'd say on a little bit more regular basis. So you can see that a lot easier, whereas I just kind of travel from one to the other and I'm not as personal with some of these cases. So that's really cool.
Yeah. It does make it kind of fun.
And those are the results you want to get.
Yes, exactly. So what would be the one thing you would want every horse owner to know that you could tell them?
Take care of your horses the way you would take care of yourself, and especially those performance horses. Not that any one horse deserves it more or less than the other, in my opinion. But when those horses are working as hard for you as you're asking them, I think it's really important to, give something back to them. And that's kind of why I started down this road with this. I groomed for trainers, different disciplines, different barns, and I was just exposed to a lot and saw how hard it can be for some of them, especially if they don't have the right, what word am I looking for? The right kind of post-exercise recovery stuff, which is now becoming a lot more, I think, well-known and utilized by people, I should say. And I feel like if you give back to them, it's going to be better for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, Jennifer, I really appreciate you taking your time and chatting with us today, and look forward to having you come down and work on more horses down here in Scottsdale.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Great.
All right. Thank you.